There is a specific kind of silence that happens at 3 a.m. It is not a peaceful silence. It is a heavy, electric silence. It is the sound of a mind that is running at 1,000 miles per hour, while the body lies paralyzed in the sheets. If you are listening to this, chances are you know this silence intimately. You know the texture of the ceiling above your bed. You know the exact pattern of shadows that the streetlights cast on your wall. And you know the loop that plays in your head, the replay of every mistake, the calculation of every wasted year, the mourning of a person you were supposed to be. Tonight, we are going to dissect that silence. We're going to talk about a phenomenon that psychologists call the gifted kid burnout. But this is not just a buzzword. It is a systemic failure of the way we raise our brightest children. Imagine a race car engine, a V12 engine designed for Formula One. For the first 10 years of its life, this engine is put inside a go-kart. It dominates the track. It laps the other cars without even heating up. It wins every trophy. The mechanics cheer. The crowd applauds. But because it never had to push itself, it never learned how to cool down. It never learned how to handle a curve at maximum speed. It never learned endurance. And then, one day, the track changes. The go-kart track disappears, and suddenly the engine finds itself on a rally course full of mud and rocks and endless hills. The other cars, the ones that struggled on the go-kart track, they know how to shift gears, they know how to grind. But the V12 engine, it doesn't know how to grind. It only knows how to fly or explode. If you feel like that engine tonight, smoking and broken by the side of the road, then listen closely, because we are going to trace the wiring all the way back to the beginning. Let's drift back, further back, before the burnout, before the anxiety, before the exhaustion. Let's go back to the moment you were discovered. Maybe you were 5 years old, maybe 6. The setting is almost always the same. A classroom, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, the smell of chalk dust and floor wax. Do you remember the moment you realized you were different? Perhaps the teacher asked a question that was supposed to be hard, a question that made the other 20 children in the room furrow their brows and look down at their desks. But for you, it wasn't hard. It was obvious. It was as obvious as the color of the sky. It was as visible as your own hand. You raised your hand, not because you wanted attention, but because the answer was bubbling inside you, like a physical pressure. You had to let it out. And when you spoke, the room went quiet. The teacher stopped walking. She looked at you, and in her eyes, you saw something new. You saw delight. You saw relief. You saw awe. And then she said the words, "You are so smart. You are special. You are gifted." Psychologists call this labeling theory. When a child is given a label, especially a positive one, they will alter their entire personality to fit inside that label. They will build their house inside that word. To a 6-year-old child, love is survival, and you just learned the secret code to get love. The code is be smart. You didn't know it then, but that was the moment the trap clicked shut. Because smart is not a behavior. Smart is a state of being. If you get an A because you studied hard, that is hard work. But if you get an A without studying, that is smart. And so, deep in your developing brain, a dangerous equation was written. Effort is the opposite of intelligence. Think about it. If you have to try hard, it means you don't know it. If you don't know it, you aren't smart. If you aren't smart, you aren't special. And if you aren't special, you are nothing. Let's go deeper. Let's look under the hood, at the biology of your brain. Because this isn't just about psychology. This is about neurology. There is a concept in psychology called overexcitability. It was coined by the Polish psychologist Kazimierz Dąbrowski. He noticed that gifted children experience the world at a higher resolution than others. When you were a child, did colors seem brighter to you? Did the texture of your socks bother you more than other kids? Did a sad story in a book make you cry for days? This is because your brain had a lower threshold for stimulation. You took in more data, more emotion, more noise. While other children were playing tag on the playground, you were often on the sidelines, watching, analyzing, simulating scenarios in your head. You weren't just shy, you were processing a tsunami of information. And this processing power, this speed, became your identity. You got used to understanding things instantly. Click, understood, next. Click, understood, next. You became addicted to the speed of acquisition. Learning wasn't a process of climbing a mountain. Learning was jumping. You could jump to the answer while others were still putting on their hiking boots. And this is where the tragedy begins. Because you learned to jump, you never developed the hiking muscles. You never developed study habits. You never developed organization skills. You never developed the tolerance for frustration. Why would you study for a test when you could memorize the textbook 5 minutes before class? Why would you write a draft when you could write the final essay the night before it was due? It felt like a superpower. It felt like magic. But it wasn't magic. It was a deficit. You were missing the crucial developmental step of struggle. Think of a butterfly emerging from a cocoon. The struggle to break the cocoon is what pumps fluid into its wings. If you cut the cocoon open for the butterfly, if you make it easy, the butterfly will never fly. Its wings will be shriveled. It will die. For the first 18 years of your life, the school system cut your cocoon open for you. They handed you the grades. They handed you the praise. They told you that you were flying. But you weren't flying. You were falling with style. Let's talk about the fixed mindset. This is the invisible wall that you hit when you finally grew up. Dr. Carol Dweck, a researcher at Stanford, discovered something profound. She found that children who are praised for being smart tend to avoid challenges later in life. Why? Because if your worth is based on being smart, then a mistake is not just a mistake. A mistake is an identity crisis. If you try something difficult and you fail, it proves you aren't smart. So you stop trying difficult things. You stick to what you know. You stick to the things that come easily. You became risk-averse. You became a perfectionist. Perfectionism is not about wanting things to be good. Perfectionism is a defense mechanism. Perfectionism is the shield you carry to protect yourself from judgment. If it's perfect, no one can criticize you. If it's perfect, no one can see that you are actually terrified. But perfectionism is heavy. It is a suit of armor made of lead, and you have been wearing it since you were 7 years old. No wonder you are tired. No wonder you want to sleep. You have been carrying a shield that is 10 times your weight for 20 years. And now, looking back at that child in the classroom, the one with the hand raised high, the one with the bright eyes, we can see the future that awaits them. We can see the crash coming. We can see the wall. But that is a story for the next chapter. Time passes. The child grows taller. The classroom changes. Elementary school becomes high school. High school becomes university. For a while, the strategy still works. The strategy of coasting. You know this feeling well. It is the ability to sit in a lecture, absorb 20% of the information, and still intuitively understand 90% of the concept. It is the ability to read the summary of a book and write a better essay than the student who read every page. You felt invincible. You looked around in peers sweating in the library, highlighting every line of their textbooks, and you felt a strange mixture of pity and arrogance. Why do they make it so hard? You wondered. You were lulled into a false sense of security. You thought the road would be smooth forever. You thought intelligence was a passive trait, like height or eye color, something you just had. But you forgot the laws of physics. Eventually, the incline of the road gets steeper. Eventually, the complexity of the world exceeds the processing power of raw talent. And that is when you hit the wall. The wall is different for everyone. For some, it is organic chemistry in their second year of college. For others, it is their first thesis paper. For many, it is their first real job, where there's no syllabus, no clear grading system, and no teacher to clap when you finish a task. Do you remember the moment you hit the wall? It starts with confusion. You sit down to do the work. You open the document. You look at the problem. And for the first time in your life, the answer doesn't come. The mental leap fails. The click doesn't happen. This moment is terrifying. It is not just frustration. It is existential horror. Because you have never learned the skill of not knowing. You have never learned the skill of being a beginner. To you, a blank page isn't an opportunity. It is a mirror reflecting a sudden, terrifying emptiness. Your brain starts to panic. It scans its database for a solution. How do I solve this? I usually just know it. Why don't I know it? Has my intelligence disappeared? Am I stupid now? This is the fragility of the fixed mindset. When you define yourself by your ability, then the moment you struggle, you cease to exist. You don't look at the difficult task and think, this will take time. You look at the difficult task and think, I have been found out. You feel exposed. You feel like a magician who has run out of tricks, and the audience is still watching, waiting. And this brings us to the most painful symptom of the gifted kid burnout, the procrastination. Society calls you lazy. Your parents ask why you are wasting your potential. You ask yourself why you can't just sit down and do the work. But let's be clear, this is not laziness. Laziness is when you don't care. But you care too much. You care so much, it hurts. Psychologically, your procrastination is a shield. It is a mechanism called self-handicapping. Imagine you have a huge project due. It is difficult, it requires effort, and because it requires effort, it threatens your identity as a natural genius. If you start early, work hard, and fail, that would be devastating. That would prove you aren't smart. That would destroy your ego. So, your subconscious mind offers you a deal, a brilliant, twisted deal. Wait, it says. Don't start yet. Wait until the night before. Wait until 10 p.m. Wait until the fear is so strong that you can't feel anything else. Why? Because if you leave it to the last minute, you have an excuse. If you rush it and get a C, you can say, well, I only spent 2 hours on it. If I had tried, I would have gotten an A. Your ego is safe. You are still a genius, just a lazy one. But if you rush it and pull off a miracle and get an A, then you are a god. You have reaffirmed your status as the magic child who doesn't need to try. It's a win-win scenario for your ego, but it is a lose-lose scenario for your soul. You are trapped in a cycle of terror and relief. You live your life jumping from one burning bridge to another, fueled by cortisol, fueled by adrenaline, fueled by the fear of being ordinary. As you grow older, the cycle creates a ghost that follows you into every meeting room, into every relationship, into every quiet moment. The ghost of the imposter. You feel like a fraud. You feel like you have tricked everyone into thinking you are smart. You are terrified that one day the adult police will kick down your door and say, "We know you are faking it. We know you don't know what you're doing." You look at your colleagues. They seem so calm. They seem to work steadily, step by step, brick by brick. But you don't know how to lay bricks. You only know how to build entire castles in thin air and hope they don't vanish. You find yourself over-explaining. You find yourself apologizing before you even speak. You find yourself checking your emails 10 times before hitting send because you are sure, absolutely sure, that there is a mistake hidden somewhere that will reveal your incompetence. Do you know why you feel this way? Because you never internalized your successes. When you succeeded as a child, it was easy, so it didn't count. When you succeed as an adult, it was last minute, so it was just luck. You have a resume full of achievements, but an internal world full of emptiness. You are starving for validation, but when people give it to you, you can't digest it because you don't believe you earned it. You are a bank vault full of gold that has lost the key, rich on the outside, bankrupt on the inside. And there is one more trap, the trap of potential. When you were young, they told you, you can be anything you want. The world is your oyster. It sounded like a blessing, but to the gifted kid, it is a curse. Because you can be anything implies you must be something amazing. If you have the potential to cure cancer, isn't it a waste to just be a dentist? If you have the potential to write a great American novel, isn't it a failure to just write marketing emails? You become paralyzed by the scope of your own potential. You see 1,000 paths in front of you, and every path looks like a trap. Because if you choose one path, you have to let go of the 999 other potential versions of yourself. So what do? You stand still. You freeze. You stay in the hallway, staring at the doors, but never opening one. You start projects but never finish them, because as long as the project is unfinished, it is still perfect. It still has potential. But the moment you finish it, it becomes concrete, it becomes real, and it becomes judged. So you hoard your potential. You keep it locked away in a box, safe, pristine, and useless. You are waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect idea, the perfect passion that will sweep you off your feet and make hard work feel easy again. But that moment never comes, and the silence in your room gets louder, and the clock on the wall ticks louder. Tick, tick, tick. You are tired of running, but you are too scared to walk, so you just lay there. This is the burnout. It is not the exhaustion of movement. It is the exhaustion of holding yourself together. There is a final, invisible layer to the gifted kid's prison. It is the feeling of being constantly watched. When a child is labeled gifted, they aren't just given a title, they're given a stage. And from that moment on, they feel the spotlight is never turned off. They carry an internal supervisor in their head, an invisible audience made up of their parents, their teachers, and their future selves, all sitting in the dark, waiting for them to do something amazing. This is why they struggle with the simplest tasks, because to them, a simple task is never just a task, it is a performance. Have you ever felt your mind go blank the moment someone stands behind you? Have you ever felt your fingers fumble on the keyboard just because you know someone might be reading what you write? This is the legacy of the gifted kid. They are terrified of the messy middle. They are terrified of the process of struggle being seen. Because in their mind, if people see them struggling, they will realize the gifted label was a lie. If people see them failing, they will lose their seat at the table. They have been conditioned to only show the final product, the perfect score, the finished masterpiece, the effortless victory. So, when they are in the middle of a difficult, ugly, confusing process, they want to hide. They want to disappear. They want to freeze until the danger, the eyes, go away. This is where the burnout meets a deeper psychological freeze. If the gifted kid burnout is the engine failing, then the fear of being watched is the brakes locking up. They are two sides of the same coin. One is the exhaustion of being special. The other is the terror of being seen as average. If they find themselves unable to work when observed, if they feel their skills evaporate the second they feel a pair of eyes on them, it is because they are still trying to protect that 6-year-old child in the golden light. They are still trying to prove that they don't need to try. If this resonates, if this freezing is their daily reality, then understanding the mechanism of that paralysis is the only way to break the spell. Perhaps when the sun comes up, they will want to explore that specific darkness, the darkness of why you freeze when watched. But for now, softly, we have a more urgent task. We have to dismantle the pedestal. Listen to the silence in the room again. That silence is not a void. It is the only place where the gifted kid is finally safe. Tonight, the contract is broken. The one they signed when they were 6 years old. The one that said their worth was tied to their output. It is time to tell that child that the theater is empty. The audience has gone home. The critics have fallen asleep. Imagine the gifted kid finally walking off the stage into the shadows, where it is dark, where it is quiet, and where no one is waiting for them to be special. In the shadows, they are allowed to be ordinary, and ordinary is not a failure. Ordinary is the only place where a human being can actually breathe. It is the only place where you can make a mistake and it doesn't become a disaster. It is where you can learn slowly, brick by brick, without the pressure of having to build a castle by morning. The world told them that potential was a gift, but potential was a debt they never asked for, alone with an impossible interest rate. Tonight, the debt is canceled. They are not wasted potential. They are a human being who was given a burden too heavy for a child to carry, and they are finally putting it down. They can put down the crown. They can put down the shield of perfectionism. They can put down the fear of being just a person. It is okay to be just a person. The lights are fading now. The internal supervisor has left the building. The spotlight has burned out. The gifted kid is no longer on display. There is a strange peace in being forgotten. There is a strange power in being unseen. No more smart, no more tainang, no more lazy, no more failure. Just existence, pure, heavy, silent. The stars don't have to try to shine. They just do. The rain doesn't try to fall. It just does. And a human soul does not have to try to be worthy. It just is. The quiet room is dark. The noise of the world has been muffled by the night. The weight of the crown is gone. There is no more potential to fulfill. There is only the present moment, the cold air, the soft shadows, the absolute healing silence. Finally, the performance is over.